My background is I'm English, but coming up to living half my life in America, so I'm transatlantic. And my role along with Bruce is to lead the company creatively. And we've each done that in our respective studios over the years. We often talk about the fact that the secret to our success is the fact that we're trying to work together nearly 6,000 miles apart. And to begin with, there were all sorts of technology barriers to that. So the only ways we had to work together really were phone and fax machine, which for a graphic designer is a bit of an encumbrance. Computers were pretty archaic at that point, and couldn't really deliver rapid communication the way they do now. So we really had to focus purely on ideas. That's what you can send over a phone or a fax line is an idea. What you can't send is a beautiful execution. And I think for a graphic designer that's a really good separation, because it makes sure you have a strong conceptual foundation to what you're doing before you start executing and make it look amazing. So that was a constraint that has remained a bit of a constraint, because it's still with time differences and even with modern technology, it's still hard to really communicate the way you can in person. But that constraint has been really important to our work, to keep us focused on what's important in the work, which is ideas. On a day-to-day basis, we talk all the time, I mean pretty much every day, about a wide range of subjects, from the minutiae of a project that we're excited about to the big picture of where the company's going. And the other key factor really, I think, is a lot of creative partnerships burn out because they're very intense. And after a few years of working intensely together, it can become too much and people just want to move on. But because we haven't been physically able to work together as much as we probably have liked, actually our friendship over the years has grown stronger and stronger, and our kind of creative connection has continued to grow stronger. So I think the separation is a good thing from that point of view. It gives us longevity and it keeps us focused on the ideas. I think that part of the success of our partnership is how similar we are, actually. That we get excited about the same things, we value the same things. And again, in a lot of creative partnerships, that's not usually the case. You have this sort of yin and yang. You have complementary but different points of view. But because we were separated, we were kind of trying to do exactly the same thing in two different places. So the physical separation was what we needed to create the kind of friction you need in a creative relationship. But we've always had such, I mean, we can practically finish each other's sentences. So we really, we were talking about this a moment ago, and really couldn't identify an area where, oh, you're really different from me on that. Obviously there are nuances, we are different people and we live in very different environments. I live in America, I'm in San Francisco, and Bruce lives here in London, so we have a completely different set of cultural inputs, and that creates a lot of interest and tension and dimension to our work. But at the heart of it, we're very like each other as people, we have very similar backgrounds. We got married within weeks of each other, we had kids within weeks of each other. It's a little spooky, actually. In fact, if I were wearing my glasses, you'd see we even wear the same glasses. We're a little bit like Gilbert and George. When I first went out to America, it was very hard to convince clients to execute the sort of work that I really valued, which was conceptually led, very clear, as simple as possible. At the time, in America, the clarity and simplicity, particularly in what we were doing a lot of at the time, which was packaging, and we still do packaging. It's more part of our repertoire now, but at the time, if you wanted to do a very simple package with a very clear idea, there was a conception that it looked cheap or bland or generic, or it was missing something, or why doesn't it tell me the 12 things that the product can do on the front of the box? Fortunately, things have really changed for a number of reasons. Probably the biggest being the education that Apple gave to America about design. And there were other brands doing it at the same time. Target was a great example. Made design a very clear business force. But it was a mystery to most American clients. Like, what is this? You just do something really beautifully and simply, and it seems to sell a lot. And that's when the interest came up. And so the drum that we'd been banging for years was suddenly one that people wanted to hear. So that now that I think design is becoming much more globalized, and the understanding of a great idea beautifully executed in design has become more pervasive internationally.